Joining us now, House Speaker Paul Ryan. We just went over some boards, leader, and markets are off a little, and there's an old adage, you know, buy the rumor, sell the news. So I don't think it really necessarily means anything about the plan itself, although I think we're all wondering about, you know, the likelihood of how easy it's going to be to garner those votes again. And I wish I was talking about bipartisan votes, but I'm not. I'm talking about Republican votes, because we know how hard that is after what we've seen. Is this going to be different, do you think? And I'm basically talking about the Senate again, or are the same 3 or 4 individuals, can they hold this bill hostage as well to pass it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate question this day and age, but I feel very, very good and confident on this particular project because, you know, first of all, our DNA is pretty much wired the same on tax reform and taxes. We had disagreements within our own party and caucus on health care. The House passed its health care bill last May, as you know. But what we did differently in this go-around is we spent the last 4 months basically working together, the Senate Finance Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, and the White House, making sure that we're on the same page so that we're there for the takeoff, so that we're there for the landing. Meaning, unlike health care, where the House passed a bill and then the Senate went a different direction and then ultimately didn't get anything passed, we're making sure that we sort of did the hard lifting, the tough work ahead of schedule, ahead of rollout, so that we came up with the same framework. And that's why I feel like we're really wired for success. And it was done by the committees that are in charge of writing this legislation, the Senate Finance Committee, House Ways and Means Committee, along with Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and Gary Cohn, the NEC Director, with House leadership like myself and Senate leadership involved. So I feel very, very good about that prospect. Look, I'm really excited about this, Joe. I got to tell you, I've been working on this pretty much my adult life. I was Jack Kemp's staff economist, you know, working on this stuff back in the 90s. And I was chair of the Ways and Means Committee before I had this job. And I've got to tell you, there is not another thing we can do in Congress, in law, that will do more to grow this economy, lift wages, help people get a raise, and bring confidence into our economy and hit that 3% growth average we used to have than doing tax reform. This is it. This is the game changer for our economy. And we are so uncompetitive globally. It's just crazy. We are really, really hurting ourselves with our tax code, whether it's businesses overseas with trapped cash, whether it's the fact that we're taxing our businesses at much higher tax rates than our foreign competitors are taxing theirs, or especially the people in this country living paycheck to paycheck, the middle class who are getting a squeeze, who have just had stagnant wages for so long and there's so much economic anxiety. Tax reform does so much to fix those problems. And that's why we are all in on this. We are unified on this, and we're excited about this.
I would urge it. Don't look at any conservative websites, because they're saying you're raising taxes on rich people and you know, they're actually going to have a surcharge. Then you look at the liberal. I'm looking at USA Today. Don't look at USA today, Leader Ryan.
Okay.
It says Trump's going to reap millions. Proposals cut estate taxes and AMT just to benefit the wealthy. Certain places are saying it doesn't benefit the middle class at all. So, you know, I would ignore a lot of this stuff because you got a job to do, obviously. But then again, sometimes public opinion and the way it's characterized, you know, when things get rolling. For like the repeal plans never got above like 20%, and I think that mattered in terms of public approval. And
yep.
There can be pressure on you. So I'd urge you not to look at this stuff, but you're going to see it. I just wonder whether some of your less committed members in the Senate, Republicans, whether they're going to fold once again to the public pressure, because it's hard to do this stuff.
Yeah, this is why it hasn't been done since 1986. Look, I've been on the Ways and Means Committee since 2001 trying to do this. So clearly, Joe, this has been a hard lift because of the things you just said, not to mention, you know, all the special interests that are looking to keep their loopholes. So here's the point. Let me just clear up a couple of things. Surcharge, we're just saying that the high-income earners will not receive the kind of tax rate reduction and tax cut that the middle class will receive, because this is about people living paycheck to paycheck to get a good tax cut for the middle class. With respect to AMT, it's a crazy, ridiculous tax. It's very complicated. We don't need it. We want to get rid of it. Even the arbiters of this debate, the Joint Committee on Taxation, even the IRS advocate says this is crazy, you should get rid of this. But our rates on businesses are so high, 35% for corporations, 44.6% top effective rate for pass-throughs, which is 80% of American businesses. That's what we're taxing these businesses at. And the average in the world is 22.5%. So this is killing us. And then if you make money overseas, you can't bring it home because you get taxed if you do that. So we know we need to fix this, and we know we can get much faster economic growth, bigger paychecks, and more jobs in this economy with tax reform. And so, look, I would say we're going to get, the demagoguery is going to come. This is politics that happens. We know what we need to do. We know what works. And we know Americans need a break. We know people need a break on their paychecks, and we know we need faster economic growth so we can get more wages. We haven't hit 3% growth since before the last recession. It's been about a decade. And that is why you have economic anxiety. That is why you have stagnant wages. This gets us a good 3% economy plus, right. And we know that, and that's why we're so focused and dedicated to doing this.
Speaker, the president yesterday and Gary Cohn this morning reiterating what they called a bright line on this 20% rate,
absolutely,
meaning that it will not go higher. Are you committed to that?
Yes, I am, and I'm really excited that I talked to the president late last night about this. I'm very excited that he said that that's a red line, a bright line, whatever line you want to call it. I completely agree with that. Look, when we pulled the border adjustment from our bill back in the middle of the summer, that created a pretty big revenue hole. And we spent the next 3 months rewriting the whole thing, reworking all of the numbers, and making sure that we could get to 20%, which we can. And we're very excited about that. And so, yes, we got to stick the landing on that. And we're just as committed as the White House is on holding through on that.
Are there other items in that 9-page framework, Speaker, that also fall into that same category, that are non-negotiable in your view? Or is everything on the table except for that 20% corporate tax rate?
Here's the point I'm trying to say is the reason we put this framework out, guess who put this framework out? The House and the Senate and the White House together. So now we work within this framework. So this now goes from the framework that we all agree on, that we're all going to work within this framework, and we move it to the tax writing committees. First, because the Constitution says the House must go first on tax policy. The Ways and Means Committee will fill in all those details inside this framework. And then we move it through the House and we send it over to the Senate, who works within this framework. So don't think of this thing going outside the framework. Think of, here's the framework and the outline, and now we put the details within the framework because we've all agreed between the House, the Senate, and the White House on this setup, this framework.
It was kind of a, Speaker, I demoted you earlier, I'm sorry. Yeah, Speaker, I'm going to give you your due.
Hey, where's Becky, by the way?
Becky, I think, is doing her civic duty. And I think she actually is on a trial, and I think
she's in jury duty. Oh, okay.
I hope she throws the book at this.
Whatever case it is.
Maybe he's
innocent until
or she's innocent. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
How you talk
about
Trump now?
Sorry, I brought it up. Sorry, I brought it
up. Lynn Tilton fought the law and won.
But with Trump, it's guilty until proven innocent. With you, now you want to give the.
Anyway,
I'm really sorry I brought that up. Just please say hi.
We are too.
Speaker, I'm looking at this Alabama situation and what they're pointing to. I'm going to call you Paul. I've known you for so long.
Joe, we've known each other a long time. Go ahead. That's what I go by.
They're saying that it was caused. Actually, they're telling Senator Collins, Murkowski, and McCain all to take a bow for electing this or for getting this twice defrocked Supreme Court justice. It beat Luther Strange, but they're also pointing at Mitch McConnell as well, that this is the kind of thing that happens to voters when they get totally disgruntled about the way things are going. Is this going to make it harder?
No, is getting tax reform done, or just make it meaning
the whole Obamacare debacle? I wonder whether it makes it harder or easier.
We're pretty frustrated about this as well. Look, Joe, as you know, we passed our Obamacare bill last May, and we used the reconciliation rules that are Senate rules to write our bill, which we didn't like doing, but we did because we wanted to get law. And yeah, we're really frustrated. Look, we've passed 373 bills here in the House. 270 some are still in the Senate. So in the House, we've passed more bills in the House at this stage in the Trump presidency than they did in the Obama presidency, the Clinton presidency, and both Bush presidencies. So in the House, we're rocking and rolling. We're getting our work done. We passed all of our appropriation bills ahead of schedule. For the first time, a Republican majority has done that since 2004. We passed our repeal and replace of Dodd-Frank. We've passed our border security bills. We've passed our veterans bills, our education reform bills, our military readiness bills. We've passed all these things that we said we would pass when we said we would pass them. So yeah, we're all frustrated in the House. The Senate has rules that perplex us, that frustrate us, but it is the way their system works, and they have a razor-thin majority. I mean, 2-people majority, and then they have to approve all these judges and ambassadors and cabinet secretaries, which takes a lot of their time as well. So their system is different than ours, and,
Right.
and we're the ones who've been passing all these bills, and we're a little frustrated too, but we just got to get this stuff done. There's just no excuse for not getting things done. And one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on tax reform is because we will use reconciliation for tax reform, which means two things. They can't string the debate out forever. It actually has time limits on debate, and they cannot filibuster it. And that is why we're bullish on tax reform, because we know this is the biggest thing we can do to help economic growth, to help people struggling in the middle class, to make American businesses more competitive, to keep companies in America and not inverting and moving overseas, and to get manufacturing. Look, a 20% corporate tax rate with full expensing for 5 years in a territorial system, we're going to knock it out of the park with that. Bringing the pass-through rates down from 44.6 down to 25, we're going to knock it out of the park. And then giving middle-class taxpayers a break who are moving paycheck to paycheck, this is going to be really good for our country. And yes, we got to get through the whole K Street bonanza. We got to get through the pressures and the demagoguery and all the misinformation that's out there and all the news, and focus on doing our jobs. And we have the votes and the tools to do it because we're using reconciliation. And that is why I'm really bullish on getting this done.
I know with the Senate, they're talking about maybe getting a couple of Democrats. Do you think in the House you get a few?
Yeah, I do. I actually do. We talk to them quite a bit. We actually have a lot of friends on the other side of the aisle, and we have constant conversations with them. And there are still some moderates left. And I would say they like what we're doing. They've talked to us about what their issues and concerns are. And so I do believe, look, if you're from Indiana or North Dakota or Missouri or Montana, almost all of your businesses are pass-throughs. A bunch of your businesses are moving overseas. Your workers and your constituents are struggling just like ours are. And they know that tax reform gets us growth. So I really do, at the end of the day, believe that we will probably get some Democrat support because, rather than voting ideology or party line, I think they're just going to vote for their constituents. And they know this is good. So I do believe at the end of the day, in my heart of hearts, we're going to get some of those votes.
Will you need? You're not in the Senate, and I hear your frustration, even looking over at that those legislators over there. Do you think you'll need Democrats to
no,
make up
I don't think so.
You think
I don't think so.
You'll get it'll be you think McCain will vote for this?
Yeah, I think John will.
And Paul and Susan Collins, they'll vote for this.
Yeah, because again, healthcare is an issue where we have differences of opinions as Republicans. Number one, number two, John had process issues. We are going through regular order. We negotiated a framework between the House, the Senate, and the White House. Now we're going through the committee process, the committee system, and going to the floor, doing it exactly the way the process was meant to be done. So because we've had hearings all the time this year in the House and the Senate Ways and Means and Finance Committee. So we've had hearings. We're doing regular order. We're following the process. We're using the rules as they were intended to be used. And so, yeah, I do believe. And by the way, taxpayers in Arizona and Maine are struggling just as much as they are in Wisconsin. And we know that this relief is just much needed. And we really believe and we really know that we can get 3+% economic growth in this country. But our tax code is holding us back. And we all know that. And that's why I'm really confident we can get this done.
So first you got to do the budget, right?
Yeah, we're bringing it to the floor next week in the House. And I think the Senate Budget Committee is marketing it up in their committee next week.
So that's going to work. That's going to.
Yeah, that's I think you know the process.
Right.
You get the budget through. You get the budget reconciliation instructions, we call it. And then you bring that tax bill out of the Ways and Means Committee, send it over to the Budget Committee, and then bring it to the floor, pass it, and then send it over to the Senate. That's how the process works.
Yeah. The blue states seem like if this. Are you confident that the state tax deduction does that make it to does that see the light of day when it's all said?
I think it does because it has to, because the numbers are just so great, and that is what gets you a middle class tax cut, even for people in every state. So that gets you the ability to give middle-income taxpayers, people working paycheck to paycheck, a real tax cut.
I mean, I agree with California and New York. I want you to stick it. I do. But New Jersey, is there a New Jersey exclusion? Could there be a New Jersey exclusion for the with that?
But Speaker, the question is,
look, I come from a high tax. Wisconsin's, we're getting a lot better in Wisconsin, but we're considered a high tax state as well. Scott Walker's done a lot to improve it, but you got to remember. This is about lowering taxes for middle-income taxpayers, and that gets us the ability to do that. So people need to look at this in its totality. Look at the fact that 9 out of 10 taxpayers, they're going to be able to fill their taxes out on a postcard. When you double that standard deduction and keep things like charity and mortgages, you dramatically simplify the tax code. And when you lower tax rates across the board for middle and lower-income taxpayers, everybody gets a tax break. And you make the system so much simpler and so much fairer.
Andrew, you've got him here. You got some real concerns.
Sorkin, okay, come on, Sorkin, let's have it. What's your issue?
With a lot of this.
Let's go first.
Dynamic scoring.
No, let's go first at the bottom of this, which is we talked to Gary Cohn about it.
Yep.
Just walk through the idea of going from 10% on the bottom to 12.
Yeah. So no, you got it wrong. You're going from 10% on the bottom to 0. So by doubling the standard deduction, the people who are currently captured in that 10% rate, they go to a 0% rate. And the 15% bracket comes down to 12%. So that's the point. So you're looking at this optically as if, a 10 goes up to 12 and those people pay a higher rate. No. We're exempting those people from even the 10% rate for many more dollars of their income than they were otherwise.
Right.
So actually, we're getting a lower income tax cut for those people as well.
Okay. Speak to the estate tax issue and to the degree that you would remove it, what you think that would actually do to economic growth in this country.
Look, you guys, I don't know where you live, Andrew, but where I live, businesses are family businesses. Businesses are multi-generational. It's farms, it's ranches, it's manufacturers. And this tax is destroying the intergenerational transfer of business to business, of father to daughter and on to the next generation. And so just quite frankly, we just don't think death should be a taxable event. We don't think it's fair. Right. You pay taxes all your life, sometimes 2 or 3 times in the same dollar. And then when you die, you're going to do it again. And what ends up happening when we do that to people with the government and the tax code is we destroy family businesses.
Okay, but that, just so
why
we're clear,
on earth do we want to be doing that? So,
Speaker,
look, we just think it's a fairness issue.
I will actually make the argument to you that actually the estate tax, I could make the exact arguments that you're making. I just want to be clear that it's a philosophical argument, less an economic growth argument on that piece of it.
Well, it's philosophical, but also it's pretty big economic growth to the people who have to lose their businesses or cut their businesses in half when the owner dies. I mean, that's pretty bad growth for those family businesses, for ranchers and farmers. There are a lot of people in this country who have businesses who are asset wealthy but cash poor, and then they end up having to carve up their businesses.
100%. And then the other question is, Gary Cohn talked about this fourth tier that he is. They've effectively said, look, if there needs to be a fourth tier, we're game for it, or at least open to it. In your mind, what kind of tier are we talking about? What kind of income would a family need to have before you even begin that discussion?
So the purpose of that fourth tier, and I've spoken with the president about this, I've spoken with Gary many times about this, is that we don't want very high income earners. I'm talking about wage and salary income, not the pass-throughs. Very high income earners don't get a giant tax break, because we want the tax breaks to go to the middle of the class.
What kind of number are we talking about?
So we're not talking about raising rates. It's already the top statutory rate's 39.6. So no one's talking about going above that.
Right.
It's just does that go from 39.6 down to 35 or to something else, so that you can put that fiscal space, that money, into middle class tax cuts. That's what that's about. So no one's talking about bringing rates up from where they are. It's just, do they drop as far as they otherwise would? And the answer on the fourth rate is no, they likely won't.
And what I'm asking about that fourth rate, though, is what kind of income are we talking about?
Oh, yeah.
$1 million, $2 million, $500,000?
I don't. That's something that the Ways, Means, and Finance Committee will have to deal with. I think off the top of my head, I think the break point for 39.6 is $477,000.
Right.
That could go up clearly, I think, but that's going to be decided by the Ways and Means and the Finance Committees.
Last question, Speaker. This will pass in this year, by the end of the year?
Look, you're not going to get 3% growth in 2018 if you don't get this done in 2017. So we're really serious about that. We have the time and the space to do it. One of the deals that the president was able to do on the debt limit and the CR was give us this time and space to get this moving. So instead of having, some possible government shutdown issue on the floor next week, we get the budget on the floor next week, which gets us tax reform. So we've really done a good job of kind of clearing the decks to get focused on this. We had a half-day retreat with our members walking through all of this. So we believe, and look, in the House, we're obviously a little more nimble, faster, but because we use reconciliation and the tight timelines that are involved in that, meaning limits on debate, we really can get this done this year, and that's the whole plan here. Get it done in 2017, so we wake up in 2018 with a new tax system and an economy that's taken off, so we can get above 3% growth.
Okay, thank you for all the time today. I know you got to run, Speaker Ryan. Thank you. We appreciate it. Great to see you. Okay, we will. All right.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.